Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be another episode of the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup. And going around the Championship at this point in time, guys, we just have some ridiculous rumours to go ahead and talk about. So as well, before we get into the video, apologies if my voice does sound a little bit dodgy in today's video. The hay fever at the moment, it's not in a good place, I can't lie about that. But even so, we're still going to soldier on. I'm going to get a video out for you guys today because, like I said, we've got a lot of transfer rumours to talk about. So just before we do get into any of the transfer rumours, I will quickly talk over some of the recently completed deals which have gone through in the Championship. We also spoke about some of these in my last video. Make sure to go check out that video if you've not seen it already. So we'll just briefly touch on some of these. Of course, we saw Nottingham Forest sign João Carvalho from Benfica for a fee of around 13.5 million. Really exciting time for Nottingham Forest at the moment. He was, of course, joined by Diogo Goncalves as well, also coming from Benfica. So two Portuguese wingers coming into Nottingham Forest, and we got quite a few transfer rumours surrounding Forest at the moment. Bristol City completed the signing of Marley Watkins, the winger coming in from Norwich. Didn't have the best of times at Norwich City, however he showed from his time at Barnsley that he's more than capable of being a solid Championship player. My team Preston North then went ahead and sold Greg Cunningham. He completed his move to Cardiff City in a deal worth around about £4 million. It was a shame to see Greg go, but to get £4 million in for him, hopefully we'll be looking to reinvest that money into the squad in this window. Bolton went ahead and signed Oztuma from Walsall, or the Turkish Messi as he's otherwise known. Really nice addition, I feel like, that for Bolton. They were lacking some creative players in that squad last season, and Oztuma will be a good addition to the squad. And then we saw Dean Henderson complete a loan move to Sheffield United. I feel like a lot of Sheffield United fans will be really buzzing about this one, really, of course. A lot of other Championship clubs were interested in Dean Henderson after the season he had last year with Shrewsbury, of course. A loanee coming in from Man United, and is one of the best highly rated young goalkeepers we have at the moment in England. Also, we saw Joe Allen sign a new contract with Stoke City. I feel like that will be massive going into this season in the Championship. To have a player as quality as Joe Allen pulling the strings in that midfield for Stoke, I think it's looking good for them going forward. So there were some of the recently completed deals which have gone through in the Championship. If you've seen any others, make sure to let me know down below. But apart from that, guys, let's go ahead and get into some of these transfer rumours. And we are starting the video out with probably one of the maddest rumours I have ever seen. We are currently seeing Fernando Torres being rumoured to be going to Leeds United. Now, it was a couple of days ago, I was scrolling through Twitter, and suddenly I was just met by an absolute flurry of Leeds fans saying that they are currently being linked to Fernando Torres, of course. Marcelo Bielsa recently coming in as the Leeds United new manager. He's, of course, going to bring a ton of ambition to Ellen Road, but I feel like this one may be a step too far, really. I'm not sure where this transfer rumour has come from, but it's all over Twitter at the moment, and I just found it quite funny, really. I mean, could you imagine the absolute scenes at Leeds if this transfer did come off? I don't think there's any chance whatsoever that this is going to happen, of course. Fernando Torres is currently a free agent. He was recently released by Atletico Madrid. Last season for Atletico, he went ahead and scored 10 goals. Currently, he is 34 years old, and I would love to see him in the Championship, but realistically, he's probably going to end up going to America or China or somewhere like that to finish his career. You know, Leeds isn't usually the destination for top international footballers to go and end their career. But hey, I mean, we saw Ruben Neves go to Wolves last season, so never say never in the Championship. Perhaps a transfer which is a lot more realistic for Leeds United is the signing of Mate Vydra. They're currently being linked with a move for the Derby man. Now, currently, reportedly, Marcelo Bielsa is actually more inclined to go ahead and sign Vydra than he is Hernandez, of course, previously playing for Hull City. I feel like it depends on what sort of striker he's looking for, really, of course. Last season, Vydra managed to score 22 goals in the Championship, a really prolific goal scorer from his time last season at Derby County. Derby, of course, it's an interesting situation there. At the right price, I feel like they probably would be tempted to sell Vydra. You know, if Derby are going to buy players in this transfer window, they're going to have to sell some of their assets first. Vydra is a player who is quite flexible, can play in a number of positions on the front line, can play out wide, can play as that number 10 or as that number 9. I feel like he's a much different striker to Abel Hernandez, really. Abel Hernandez gives the option to stretch a back line going in behind with his pace, can also hold the ball up and is probably more of an aerial threat, whereas Mate Vydra is probably better at linking up with the midfielders in terms of the build-up play and can score a wide range of goals. So it just depends on what striker Leeds are looking for, really, but this would be a very good addition for them. The next transfer rumour was another one which quite surprised me, actually. That was Bournemouth, who are being linked with a with a move for David Brooks, of course. Probably the highest rated youngster at Sheffield United currently. Last season he did get a little bit unlucky with an injury towards the end of the season, but whenever I saw David Brooks play, you can tell that there is a quality player there. I remember thinking back to the Steel City derby, and he absolutely ran the show in that game at Hillsborough. So currently the fee being talked about is around about £12 million, and Bournemouth are said to be interested, of course. Bournemouth do have quite good connections with the Championship and poaching some young players. I think that from what he showed last season, David Brooks, it's a bit early, I think, for him to be moving to the Premier League. I think the wisest decision will be to have another full season in the Championship to really show what he's capable of. But Bournemouth are said to be interested, and Sheffield United fans, what do you make of this one? Another player Sheffield United are said to be interested is that of Sam Gallagher, of course. Sheffield United, in my opinion, probably are in need of a striker. However, I'm not sure Sam Gallagher is the type of striker they should be looking at the moment. I think they need to add a bit more pace to their attacking third, and Sam Gallagher sort of brings more of the same. He's a similar striker to Leon Clark, in my opinion, but even so, last season he managed to score 6 goals as he was on loan at Birmingham. You can't really read too much into that. Birmingham weren't a great side last season, the joint lowest scorers in the Championship. I think he's a decent Championship striker, but perhaps they could be looking into other areas. And talking about strikers, West Brom are being linked with a move for Burnley's Nahki Wells, and in my opinion this would be a pretty good move for them, of course. His time at Burnley hasn't really worked out for him. He's only played 9 games for them, and I believe he's yet to score as well. I can't see him getting into their team next season, as they'll look to improve, as they of course made it into the Europa League, and I think that a move back to the Championship is most likely for Nahki Wells. In the Championship, I think he is a very good goal scorer. It's just Premier League football is probably not cut out for. His highest scoring season in the Championship was back in 2015/16, as he managed to score 18 goals for Huddersfield Town. So got loads of pace going in behind, and I think that I'd like to see him move to a side like West Brom. I think he'd do quite well there. Then to a transfer which looks to be pretty much all over the line. That is of course James Maddison, who will be moving to Leicester City. I think the fee has now been agreed around about 22 million between the two clubs. In my opinion, that's a pretty good deal for both sides. Leicester get a fantastic, talented young English player coming in for a decent price, and Norwich are similar to that really. They get a decent price for him, and they need to be looking to reinvest that money into the rest of the squad. You know, a couple of strikers definitely going to be needed for Norwich. And speaking of Norwich, they're currently being linked with a move for Ben Marshall, of course. Currently playing for Wolves. Last season he was out on loan at Millwall. Had a fantastic season there as well. Scored 3 goals and got 5 assists. I think that he would fit into a Daniel Farke system, and with the wingers they've already lost in Josh Murphy and Marley Watkins, this is a position that they definitely need to strengthen. And now we have to speak about Nottingham Forest. Currently they are being linked with a lot of strikers, and it's to be expected really. You know, with the ambition they've already shown, a striker is the next position which they will be looking to strengthen. And the first striker is that of Patrick Bamford. Quite an interesting one in my opinion, of course. Last season playing for Middlesbrough. Last season he managed to go ahead and score 10 goals, and most of his appearances were off the bench, so that's a pretty decent return for him. Also as well, there is a connection between Patrick Bamford and Aita Karanka, as they both have worked together previously at Middlesbrough. That season as well, when Karanka and Bamford worked together back in 2014/15, Patrick Bamford managed to go ahead and score 17 goals in the Championship, so I think that he could be a decent option for Forest to look into. Probably not going to be a cheap one though. As well as that, we're also seeing them being linked with a move for Lewis Grabban. Now Lewis Grabban last season showed what he was capable of really, of course. He had 2 loan spells, one at Sunderland and one at Aston Villa, and joined together he managed to score 20 goals for both of those sides last season. So a prolific goal scorer in the Championship. Pretty much every club has been at, he's had a very good return in terms of goals. He's always a player who frustrates me a little bit to watch. His work rate isn't brilliant, neither is his attitude at times, but you can't question his goal scoring ability. So if Forest are looking for that poacher type player around the box, Lewis Grabban's certainly an option to look into. And another player who Forest are being linked to is that of Nelson Oliveira. Interestingly enough, Nelson Oliveira has previously played for Forest. He had a loan spell there a couple of years ago. Currently playing for Norwich, I feel like there's a lot of frustration with Nelson Oliveira at the moment. Watching him last season, he gave off the body language of a player who doesn't really want to be there. His attitude at times didn't look the best, so if he was to get this move to Nottingham Forest, maybe that could rejuvenate his career a little bit. Last season managing to score 8 goals for Norwich City. That's an interesting situation. What I'd be interested to know from Forest fans is, out of those 3 strikers, who would you most like to bring in? We're then seeing Ben Amos being linked with a move to Millwall. Of course, they're currently in need of a goalkeeper really at the moment to go ahead and contest with Archer, who was their #1 last season. Currently playing for Bolton Wanderers. Last season he was out on loan in League One for Charlton. Will be a solid option for them. He never really fills me with the most confidence when I do watch him, but there's still potential there for a good keeper. And then to my club, Preston North End. Currently Preston are being linked with a move for Derby County striker Cameron Jerome. Now, to me, this would be a fantastic addition to the Preston squad. We are lacking that physical presence going forward, especially after Jordan Hugill did leave. And of course, with Preston just finishing below Derby last season, probably the main difference between the two sides was they brought in Cameron Jerome in January and we didn't really have the option going forward. Last season for Derby, he managed to go ahead and score 6 goals for them in 20 appearances. 10 of them were off the bench. I think he'd be a very good option for Preston. The only thing which makes me doubt this is probably going to happen is his wages aren't probably going to fall in line with the rest of the Preston squad, which does put doubt over this transfer. Another striker Preston are being linked to, and perhaps more of a realistic target for us, would be that of FERNANDO, currently playing for Barnsley, of course, then being relegated to League One. Perhaps they're going to look to sell some of their players. Currently as well, Millwall are also interested. He's a 6'5" striker, and I believe that last season in the Championship, I think he had one of the best records for aerial duels won. So I think that in terms of a player to come in and replace Jordan Hugill for his physical ability, Mo would be a fantastic option. The only thing that makes me, that puts a bit of doubt into my mind with this signing would be last season for Barnsley, he only scored 4 goals in 20 appearances. So there's a couple areas that Preston could look into with this striker, but FERNANDO, it's an interesting one. Also at the moment, Preston are said to be after a left back, as of course we did sell Greg Cunningham the other week. Currently Luke Gorbett from Everton is said to be our main target. The 25-year-old has been told that he can leave Everton in this transfer window. I think it would be a pretty good deal for both clubs, really. He fits into our young model of players at the moment. Another left back being linked to the Championship is that of Jay Da Silva. He's currently being linked with a move to both Derby and Brentford. The 20-year-old currently playing for Chelsea. Last season he was out on loan at Charlton in League One and actually went ahead and won their fans player of the season. So a very highly rated player to come through into the Championship. I think that he would be a good player, especially for Derby, who in my opinion are definitely in need of strengthening that left back position. Then one transfer rumour which really caught my eye over the last few days, that is Dan Burn, who has been linked with a move to Aston Villa. Now, that would be an interesting replacement to say the least for John Terry. Currently playing for Wigan Athletic, he's a 6'7" absolute monster at the back. Last time when I watched him in the Championship with Wigan, to me he didn't look brilliant. He looked very clumsy on the ball, he looked like he could get turned quite easily, but last season in League One with Wigan, he looks to have really matured into that experienced centre-back. He could be a decent option coming into Aston Villa, but he'd certainly be a downgrade on Chester and Terry. Next up, we're then seeing Middlesbrough being linked with a move for Paddy McNair of Sunderland. Now, there is said to be an agreement between both clubs, a fee agreed of around about £5 million. I think that, to be honest, this will be a deal which does suit both clubs. Sunderland, of course, in need of some money to go ahead and rebuild that squad they had last season going into League One now. And Middlesbrough, I feel like this would be a decent addition for them. He's quite a versatile player, can either play as a defensive midfielder or as a centre-back, and he does actually have a goal-scoring presence as well. Last season in a very struggling Sunderland side, he managed to go ahead and score 5 goals in 16 appearances for them. Quite a young player as well, definitely a physical presence in that midfield, which we all know Tony Pulis is a fan of, but overall I feel like this will be a decent addition for them. Another defensive midfielder currently being linked to a couple of Championship clubs is that of Ben Godfrey, of course. Currently playing for Norwich City. Last season he was loaned out to Shrewsbury in League One, where he really went ahead and impressed. Currently the teams said to be interested are Swansea, West Brom and Crystal Palace. Quite a versatile player, similar to Paddy McNair as well. Norwich, I believe, highly rate this guy, so the fee probably won't be cheap, probably looking at about £3 million if anyone was to come in and sign the player. But then we had a transfer rumour which really went ahead and intrigued me. That was Aidan McGeady, who is currently being linked to a move to Bristol City, of course. Myself being a Preston fan, I know all about Aidan McGeady, and this transfer rumour, it did catch me off guard a little bit. Bristol City fans, let me know down below, would you like to see a player like McGeady come into the club? Last season, of course, at Sunderland, didn't really have the best of years, you know. One thing I'd say about McGeady is his ability, when he's in the right mindset, is undoubtable. You know, that season he had was Preston. He was lighting things up for us. The only thing that takes that away from it, really, is his attitude can come into question at times. As well as that, he is 32 years old, so Bristol City fans, let me know down below, would you like to see Aidan McGeady come to the club? And then to wrap up the video with our final transfer rumour, we are then seeing Nathan Manua currently being linked to a move to Hull City, of course. He was released by QPR at the end of last season, and with Hull City desperately in need of defenders, I think that this move would make sense just to get anyone in for the club at the moment, of course. They, of course, lost Michael Dawson at the end of that season, so to bring in a player like Anua would bring that experience back into that back line, which I think is quite important for them. So guys, there you have it. There are all the latest transfer rumours which are currently floating around the Championship. So make sure you do leave a comment in the comments down below as to what you've made of all the recent speculation. But like I said, that will now wrap it up for this video, guys. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.